We really are starting to move towards a completely wireless future, with Apple leading the charge, removing the headphone jack on the iPhone 7 back in 2016, and adding wireless charging just last year on the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10 in their push towards the portless iPhone. While there are benefits to removing ports, more space for additional components like the Taptic engine, better water resistance, and a potentially bigger battery, there are downsides to doing it as well. Namely, the lack of the headphone jack, a port that has been around in some form since the 1800s, with millions of devices designed to use it. It was bound to happen at some point though, and Apple has never been shy about pushing what they think is going to happen in the future. For those of us living in the present though, there are two options: lightning headphones like the AirPods that Apple includes in the box, or accepting the inevitable and picking up a pair of wireless headphones. Apple of course has that covered too, releasing their fully wireless AirPods and giving us a taste of the future of wireless headphones. Starting off with what makes these so much different than other wireless headphones, at least when using an Apple device, the W1 chip inside. Now with traditional Bluetooth headphones, you need to go into the settings to pair them in the Bluetooth menu. But with the AirPods and the W1 chip, simply popping open the top brings up the pairing menu for the AirPods. Once connected through here, you have access to your AirPods on every single one of your Apple devices signed into the same iCloud account. So I can quickly switch from an iPad to an iPhone to a Mac, all without going through and repairing on each device. Another feature specific to Apple devices is the ability to play and pause when you take one out of your ear. So if you're listening to music and someone wants to talk to you, simply pull one out of your ear, the music will stop playing right away, and as soon as you put it back in, the music will start right back up. These really do tie in well to the locked Apple ecosystem. Since these use Siri, using Apple Music is obviously what Apple wants you to do, but they still work with Spotify. I'm used to just asking for music with Google Assistant though, and you can't do that with the AirPods. You need to be using Apple Music. Obviously, they are designed to work great within the Apple ecosystem, but they do work with other devices, Android, Windows, and even Chrome OS. But when using a non-Apple device, AirPods become a basic pair of wireless headphones. As I mentioned a couple videos ago, if you're an Android user, I still don't recommend these. Instead, check out another wireless bud from the likes of Jaybird or others. As someone who uses Apple devices, these do work for me. But let's get on to some other things about the AirPods. First up is the design. When these first came out, I wasn't a fan of the design. I figured losing a bud would be super easy, since they are connected, and the look while wearing them wasn't the best. I also thought they would fall out of my ears, something that the X3s took care of with fins or foam ear tips. After using them for a year though, I think the AirPods have one of the best designs in the business. Now the best part of the design by far is the case, and everything really relates back to it. Now as I mentioned, I thought losing an individual headphone would be a big issue, but it really isn't something to worry about. For me, I'm either listening to music or I have the headphones in the case, and when they're in the case, there's really no way to lose them unless you lose the entire case. If you make it a habit as soon as you get these, to either have the AirPods in the case or be using them and not leave them around, you won't lose them. The case is also how you charge them, so popping them back in the case is really the way to go. It'll keep it at 100% and you won't lose them. Now these are Apple's classic white plastic. I've dropped these a lot of times, on concrete, wood floors, and I've actually had a few bad falls that popped the case open. But besides some battle scars on the case, there is no other damaged functionality. I don't go out of my way to be super careful with these. I use them all the time, so I'm glad they hold up to daily use. Some of the falls that I mentioned came from a flaw in the design, just how slippery the case is. With previous headphones, I didn't have this issue, since there was some friction in my pocket, but the AirPod case is able to slide around and right out of your pocket. As you can see, the AirPods basically have no friction against something else, which means that they can slide out of your pocket if you're not paying attention. As I mentioned earlier, when you open the lid, you are prompted to pair to a device. Apple is using magnets to do this, both to keep the case shut and detect when it's open to turn the headphones on and go into pairing mode. Magnets really are a classy way to keep the case closed, but because these are in and out of your pocket, they tend to pick up any small pieces of metal in between the top and bottom of the case. You can get some of the debris with tape, but I was never able to get mine fully cleaned. Another issue that I mentioned was the case popping open after a hard drop. Nothing could really be done about it, it's just the nature of the design. Besides a few small issues, the design really is great though, and that moves on to the buds as well. They may not be the prettiest things, but they've been durable to drops and heavy use. I've also never had an issue with these falling on my ears, no matter what I'm doing. They actually fit better than the AirPods, since the weight of the cable is no longer an issue. Besides the lack of the cable though, the AirPods are almost identical to EarPods, minus the slightly longer stem on the AirPods, increasing the room inside for the battery and the components, and also bringing the microphone slightly closer to your mouth. In terms of comfort, they are hard plastic, but since they are very light, wearing them through the entire battery many times, I've never felt like I needed to take them out. A benefit of these that I didn't have with my older buds is the low profile out of your ear, making wearing hats and helmets much more comfortable compared to the larger part of the bud that sticks out of your ear on the X3s. Overall, the AirPods are a very well built product, with a design that is up to Apple's high standards. The functionality is really well thought out, from the magnetic closure to the instant on and off of the buds when put into the case, and there isn't much that I would like to be different. The first thing I would change though is adding a color option. Right now the only option you have is the standard white, but with the availability of the color options for other Apple devices, I would like to see the option for a matte or even a glossy black. I love the subtleness of matte black, with that being the color of most of the other stuff that I carry, and a darker color for AirPods would be awesome. One other small thing would be a switch from Lightning to USB-C. Obviously has a very low likelihood of happening, as the Apple standard is to use Lightning, but their laptops show that they are not afraid to take advantage of USB-C, and seeing it here would be nice. We would still need to carry another cable to charge iPhones, but Apple drives trends throughout the technology market, and seeing them putting USB Type-C into accessories like the AirPods would absolutely push other manufacturers to do it as well. Again, not a huge deal since it uses the same cable to charge as an iPhone or iPad, but if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I'm a huge fan of USB Type-C and the functionality it offers. Besides that though, the design is fantastic. I carry these everywhere now because of the size, and after the year of heavy use, these have held up with no issues. Even without any claimed water resistance, I also haven't had any issue with sweat affecting functionality. And that functionality is really where the AirPods shine, with a great set of features that isn't seen in any other wireless headphones on the market, except for maybe Google's Pixel Buds, but I don't have any first-hand experience with those. The AirPods though, starting off with one of the most important stats, battery life. With wired headphones, there's never a risk of the battery dying when you're trying to listen to music, but moving towards a wireless future, the battery life of products is incredibly important. Apple claims 5 hours of listening time per pod, and 24 hours of additional battery life inside the case. As iFixit found, the Buds contained a 93 mAh battery, or about 1% of the capacity of the iPhone 7, while the case contained a 1.52 watt-hour battery. Apple's claim for 5 hours on the Buds is actually pretty accurate. It'll of course depend on how loud the music is, but I've gotten constantly over 4.5 hours on almost every single charge. The case battery life is harder to tell, but I don't think I get near 24 hours. I would estimate around 20 hours per charge, and I have to charge the case every few days. Since the Buds are automatically turned off and charging as soon as they're popped in the case, I haven't run into many issues of the batteries being dead when I'm going to listen to music. The sound quality when listening to that music is another important part of headphones, and while these sound good, you can tell Apple focused more on the functionality of these over the sound quality. They don't sound bad to be sure, but they have small drivers, very little power to run on, and a design that doesn't isolate outside noise very well. Basically, the laws of physics are stacked against them. They do sound better than AirPods though, at least in my opinion, in part due to the increased isolation between the driver and the outside of your ear. While AirPods have these outer ports open, the AirPods are packed with sensors, logic boards, and other components, not allowing as much tuning to be done through these ports. Again, the main focus of these is not perfect frequency response, delivering the most perfect sound. They are Bluetooth headphones designed to be used with a cell phone. There is of course no crackling or distortion, and I've never felt disappointed to be using AirPods over a higher quality pair of headphones. Finally, onto the best feature of these, the tight integration of Apple's ecosystem and switching between devices. Bluetooth pairing was the biggest annoyance when I was using the Jaybird X3s. I'd be trying to listen to music on my phone, but they would be paired to a different device. While I should have been able to pair directly from the phone, I was always running into issues where I had to unpair every other device except the phone to get it to work correctly. This was the issue that I hoped the AirPods would solve for me, and they absolutely do. They can go from being paired to a phone, to a Mac, to an iPad, and then to an Apple Watch, all within a few seconds, as long as the devices are on your iCloud account. Traditional Bluetooth headphones need to be paired to each device individually, but with AirPods, you can pair them to any device on your account, and they're available on any other device. Just opening the audio menu in Control Center shows the AirPods and can be connected to there instead of going through settings. The settings for the AirPods does have some nice options though. Obviously you can change the device name, choose a specific mic that should always be used, and automatically switch the audio from the speakers to the AirPods when they're connected. The real customizability though comes from the ability to change what tapping the left and right bud do, choosing between Siri, play pause, and going forward or backward a track. You still cannot change volume on the AirPods themselves without using Siri, but paired with an Apple Watch, you can see what is playing and adjust the volume, another benefit of being locked down within Apple's ecosystem. Clearly, Apple threw a ton of R&D for their first attempt at wireless headphones, and the result really is great. Most of the devices that I use are from Apple, so the AirPods are by far the best headphones to pair them with. At this point, I don't leave without grabbing these, and all the other issues I mentioned are nothing compared to the frustration of using multiple devices with other Bluetooth headphones. As I mentioned in my other video, if you're an Android user, there are better options out there, with Jaybird being some of the best that I've used, and they have multiple types of wireless buds, ranging in size and price. For the Apple user though, you will not find a better set of wireless headphones. The $160 price tag is high, but it's right within the range of other completely wireless buds, and the functionality that these offer blow those right out of the water. Apple may have been premature in removing the headphone jack, but with the AirPods, they gave us the biggest look at the future of headphones that we've ever seen. If you own any Apple products and can fit these in your budget, absolutely grab a pair. They are by far the best headphones on the market for the person using Apple devices. Now that's all for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe to see more from me, and I will catch you next time.